Speaking of Congress, we're going to move to the NDAA. A lot of very important stuff going on here in Washington. Let's put this up here on the screen. Marjorie Taylor Greene, one of the few Republicans still left in the House of Representatives for the majority, has announced she will not be voting on the NDAA. That, quote, funds our military and is once again filled with America's hard-earned tax dollars used to fund foreign aid and foreign countries' wars. So let's take a look. What's actually in said NDAA? Despite promises to end the war in Ukraine, another $400 million for the, quote, Ukraine Security Assistance Initiative for 2026-27, you'll be happy to learn that for Israel, we have the following: $500 million for Israeli missile defense, $80 million for U.S.-Israel anti-tunnel cooperation, $50 million for U.S.-Israel anti-drone technology. We've got another $175 million for the Baltic Security Initiative, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia. You've got a few $100 million there for the government of Iraq, Syrian militias. What's that? Syrian militias? Which militia do you mean? $100 million to support Middle Eastern countries to increase security along their borders. So, about half a bill there for the Middle East, for the pro-Al-Qaeda government over there in Syria. Few cool $100 million for the Israelis, a few cool $100 million for Ukraine. And so, yeah, pretty much looks exactly the same that it always has been. Zeteo News doing some good breakdown here over the Israel stuff. Let's put that next one up here on the screen. This is amazing, by the way. The U.S. bill would actually fill the Israeli weapons gap caused by embargoes. So other nations that are boycotting Israel and are stopping them from acquiring certain weapons, what the U.S. bill would do is go around and would then buy said weapons and make sure that we deliver it to them.
They're going to analyze, make sure, we need to spend our government money analyzing, making sure the Israelis have absolutely everything they need, that they're not impacted by these embargoes from their genocide whatsoever, and then we will make sure to fill the gaps in anything that is not being provided by countries that have more of conscience than we do.
America first, indeed. And so actually, what's kind of interesting here, guys, is this could be in trouble because you've got a lot of, the margin right now in the House of Representatives is like 2 votes. Let's put D3 up here on the screen. This is from Politico. They're talking about what you missed in the NDAA. They also, you'll all be happy to learn, is that they are making sure to waive any of the existing sanctions on Syria. We wouldn't want Al-Qaeda to pay a price. Now, would we, now that they're pro-Israel in Syria? That would be unconscionable.
Waive a lot of sanctions, but it's funny that this is the one that we choose to do.
Look, we can debate sanctions all we want. Do they work? Do they not work? There's a lot of evidence. They mostly don't work. But, if you're going to do it, if you're going to waive it, you should waive it for a good reason. And in this case, what are you doing it for? So you can have the pro-Israel Al-Qaeda in Syria. Okay. All right, got it. And like I said, hundreds of millions more here. I love this, making sure to backfill all of the Spain, Italy, and Germany weapons transfers by buying said weapons. Make sure that Israel has absolutely everything that it needs. Now, originally, I thought, of course, Ukraine. We're not even going to, I'll get to that money pit here in a second. It'll disappear into the pockets of Zelensky and his cronies. He needs just a few more $100 million to make it all work. But what is amazing to me is I originally had thought, oh, well, Marjorie won't vote for it, so maybe it'll be in trouble. But you informed me this morning, I had forgotten that many hawkish Democrats will probably bail them out because they support the Ukraine, the Israel section too. So it's great to live in a uniparty state. It really is.
Bipartisanship still very much
alive.
Saagar.
It's alive.
Don't listen to the haters who say there's no bipartisanship in Washington. No, so I mean you're losing Marjorie. Thomas Massie, I'm going to assume, probably not going to vote for it either. That means you can only lose one more person. I think that's the math. And so if you did have more Republicans defect, the expectation is that there are a handful of hawkish Dems who would make sure to step up and fill the void. One other provision I did want to mention, because this was, related to a central Donald Trump campaign promise. Remember, he talked about how he was going to expand access to IVF, blah, blah, blah. Well, Mike Johnson, who is this, ideological Christian zealot, he has removed a provision that would have provided IVF coverage for military active duty members of the military, so that in spite of Trump's pledge to strengthen access to the procedure. So, it's one of the line items here. There's, of course, this is a Christmas tree type of bill. There's all kinds of stuff put in here. But one of the pieces that got stripped out for, religious ideological reasons here, seemingly from the Speaker of the House himself, was this provision that would have provided IVF access for active duty members of the military.
Wow. Yeah. Great. Let's continue here. D4 up on the screen. We wanted to stay on top of this. We had told you before that there are many Republicans who are weighing resignation. Well, now it says that there may be 20 in the next few weeks who will announce that they will not retire, running for the exits before things get worse. It's a terrible job. I think, in my opinion, kind of always has been. Especially in the House of Representatives. But especially now, and when you're headed into a minority, you're going to be doing nothing. You're just going to have to be, Trump's impeachment defense guy. And that's a great job for, Jim Jordan or anybody like that who just loves to go on Fox News and be like, here's what we're going to do to stand up to the radical Democrats today. If you actually care about getting anything done, already being in the minority sucks. Being the minority under Trump, where 98% of what's going to happen on the Democrats is investigation of Trump, get ready. It's going to be Benghazi committee all day long. Not a criticism. That's fine. That's what opposition parties do when they take over the House of Representatives, but that's the reason why. And they don't want to take their marching orders.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's always a sign. You always see, like, in years where it's expected that it's going to be a Republican wave, you see a bunch of Democrats retire because they just don't want to deal with being in the minority. They're like, all right, I'm done here. This time, the indication is you've had more Republicans who have retired or outright resigned, like Marjorie Taylor Greene's not serving out the rest of her term. And so that is an indication of where the political winds are heading and the expectation from basically all of them that we're going to be in the minority, so I'm not sure I want to stick around for this. I mean, one question, first of all, we don't know how many, this says up to 20. Well, up to 20 is a pretty broad range, so how many exactly? The other question is, do others of them take the Marjorie Taylor Greene route and leave before their term ends, triggering more special elections and putting the House majority in jeopardy even before we get to the midterm elections, which, again, given the narrow margin and given the way these special elections have been going, is, I think, certainly very much on the table that Mike Johnson would lose majority control of the House even before we get to 2026.
Right. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting. And then I just had to put this in here because, only been saying it for 3 years. D5, put it up here on the screen. You gotta love this. New York Times, they woke up from their coma. They say, Zelensky's government sabotaged oversight, allowing corruption to fester. Oh, really? And they say, a Times investigation found President Vladimir Zelensky's own administration removed guardrails and, to prevent graft. And they point to this very specific example involving a gas company. God, this is the tip of the iceberg. And, did you guys cover? Probably not. Which the head negotiator, literally, we played a shot of him last week. The head negotiator for Ukraine's peace deal, he had to resign because of corruption. His own defense guys,
I think you and
corrupt.
I covered that, didn't we?
I don't think we did because we did the SOT and then the next day he literally resigned. Resigned because of corruption. Can you imagine that? Like you're negotiating peace and the next day you're like, oh, actually I gotta go because they got me. I tweeted out the story. They got close Zelensky advisors, business partners with hundreds of millions in cash and euros in the middle of their apartments when they're being busted. Zelensky is literally at war with his own independent to the extent that there's any independent agency trying to cover. And what do? We hand him another $400 million. It's amazing to me. It's amazing to me. Like one of the reasons, look, I get the Europeans, why they're all bought into this. If this war ends, it's a disaster for him. It's a gravy train. Like this is the only thing propping up the entire Zelensky regime. They have profited to the tune of hundreds of millions. And it's pathetic because at the time when we used to talk about it in 2022 and 2023, when it wasn't popular to point out how corrupt this country was, they said you were a Russian propagandist if you wanted an independent agency to review. And coincidentally, Saagar, one of the greatest government agencies in US history, with a special inspector general for Afghanistan, it just issued its final report. And I read it. I've been reading those for 20 years. And its final report detailed the hundreds of billions that we wasted in Afghanistan. And the only reason we even know about so many of that is because of that independent agency. We still wasted it. Now, you would think eventually that we would get an accounting. Now we don't even have the mechanism to account. We're going to rely on some New York Times investigation or whatever Ukrainian opposition will come in and just point out only the Zelensky corruption, not their own, and all this. So, who knows how many billions we pissed away in this war and how many people died as a result of it, even if you do support Ukraine.
And it has a major ongoing impact because, part of the deal that is being crafted, which seems like it's not really particularly going that well at this point. The Russians don't like it. The Ukrainians are rejecting it, whatever. It doesn't seem like that's really coming together, but who knows what's happening behind the scenes. In any case, part of that is, okay, you're not going to be in NATO, but you get to be in part of the EU.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, the EU has guidelines about corruption, anti-corruption. So they're looking at this and like, not so sure we really want Ukraine, given the track record right now, to be part of the EU. So it has consequences, not only, which is significant in terms of where our tax dollars have gone and into whose pockets they have gone in and what little interest our political class has taken in answering that question, but also in terms of what happens in the future, whenever this war is brought to some sort of an ugly conclusion.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, look, I'm not optimistic for a deal. Trump is not focused enough on it. The Russians have their own, the Russians, they don't really need this deal. They're fine. They don't care about killing as many of their people as possible. The only people who need a deal is Ukraine because they're dying and they're losing their territory. Putin basically behind the scenes has said, look, we're going to take this shit one way or the other. You could give it to us or we're going to bleed another 100K. They don't care. Their economy is fine. Their population seems to support the war. I don't get it, but they do, okay? I'm not Russian. I guess they've been convinced of it. The Ukrainians are the ones who are moving in the opposite direction. They got enough people killing, and they've got enough people been killed, and they're willing to negotiate at least a little bit. And the Europeans are blowing smoke up their ass about how, oh, don't worry, we'll fund you in the interim. And as long as nothing happens, it's good for Ukraine. Because what did I just show everybody in the NDAA? Hundreds of millions are still pouring in, just enough to keep them, in the fight, to continue to lose more territory. And so, look, we're going to end up in the same place no matter what. So they think that they're being smart by holding this off. They're being dumb because they're just going to continue to lose their territory. They refuse to wake up to reality. They demand NATO protection, security guarantees, and Trump wants to give it to them. He's the one who's to blame here. It's been a year now, basically, since he's had an opportunity, and nothing is moving in any direction. So if you're pro-Ukraine, you should be mad. And honestly, you should be even more mad because you're like, you said this was going to end, and you just keep pouring money into the conflict, doing nothing, and dragging feet. People are dying by the hundreds of thousands.
Well, and remember the messaging from him. This will be easy to solve.
Yeah, that's what he said.
I'll do it before I even take office, or I'll do it on day one. I mean, that was what he said. And people bought into this brand. Oh, he's a great deal maker. If anyone can get it done, it'd be him, blah, blah, blah. And, and I think people were not really buying in that it was going to be literally handled on day one. But if you look at his polling, this is one of the issues where his rating is the lowest because, it is another major blow to his brand. You're supposed to be the great deal maker. This was supposed to be so easy for you. And here we are a year in and, we had some rumblings of, okay, things are coming together. And look, again, I don't know what's happening behind the scenes. I have no special knowledge, but we haven't heard much about progress being made. And it seems like both sides are balking at the provisions.
I doubt. I will be so doubtful. Look, we're about to go into Christmas. And things go on hiatus, the money gets passed, get a couple $100 million more. Zelensky and his guys get to go to Vienna and Paris and buy some
It's at the point now where it's easier just to put it on the back burner.
It's Afghanistan now. We're just going to keep pouring money into this shit.
Yeah,
and it'll get worse and worse and worse. One day, it'll blow up. And then everyone, oh my God, how did we all let this happen? It's like, well, it would have been easier to solve this shit in 2022. But everybody said, oh, I'd rather pay high gas prices for Ukraine. How'd that work out for you? They lost way more territory since that time. So thanks for, destroying whatever. I'm going to keep ranting.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.